Nostradamus predicted something about Trump in 2026 that's happening right now before your eyes. 471 years ago, this seer wrote a quatrain that literally describes what we're living through at this exact moment. And when you understand what it really says, you'll need to pause this video. Listen carefully to Century 3, Quatrain 81. The false trumpet will conceive a great scandal. The great republic will be devastated by his hand. Pride and deception will be his downfall when the heavens dictate his fall in the second year. Do you see the word trumpet? Trump. Trumpet in English, trompeta in Spanish. But this goes much deeper than you imagine. Nostradamus didn't write about personalities. He saw cosmic cycles, critical moments where humanity faces a test of collective consciousness. What's happening with Trump at this precise moment in 2026 isn't just a political event. It's a signal from the universe, a breaking point. Since he returned to power in January 2025, we've seen exactly what the prophecies described: extreme division, endless scandals, decisions fracturing global alliances. But here's what nobody's telling you. The end Nostradamus predicted isn't literal death of a man. It's the collapse of an entire system of thought. The end of an era dominated by unchecked ego, power without consciousness, total disconnection from the spiritual. And Trump is the perfect catalyst for that change. The quatrains speak of the great conflict of the eagle, America, and of the leader who returns to close the cycle. We're living that now in real time, but there's something more disturbing. Nostradamus mentions the year of the double return, when planets mark the final judgment of tyrants. Saturn is in Pisces. Pluto entered Aquarius. These transits only align every 500 years, and they coincide exactly with this moment, with what's happening right now. If you're drawn to understand these deeper patterns, give this video a like and subscribe, because what comes next will completely transform your perspective on what's really happening in the world. To understand what's unfolding, you need to know who Nostradamus really was. Michel de Nostradamus was born in 1503 in France, physician, astrologer, seer, but above all, a man who developed profound connection with something that transcends time. He wasn't a charlatan. He was a scientist of his era who also possessed extraordinary spiritual sensitivity. During the plague that devastated Europe, Nostradamus saved thousands of lives with remedies official medicine rejected. But after his first wife and children died from the disease, something changed in him. He withdrew for years, meditated, fasted, entered altered states of consciousness using techniques mystics knew, but the Church prohibited. In those states, he began to see, not dreams, clear visions of future events, wars, leaders, catastrophes, but also spiritual cycles, moments where humanity would have to choose. In 1555, he published the Prophecies, nearly 1,000 quatrains written in symbolic language that protected the knowledge from the Inquisition while allowing those prepared to understand the real message. And here's what's fascinating. Nostradamus succeeded in predicting impossible things. He predicted the French Revolution 234 years in advance, specifically mentioning Louis will be dethroned when no Louis existed on France's throne. He predicted Napoleon's rise, calling him Poney Lauren, an anagram of Napoleon Roy. He predicted World War II, speaking of the great fury of the young one who will burn in the east, near where Hitler was born. He predicted the Twin Towers attack, writing, "Celestial fire will fall on the new city, two great rocks will long make war. New York, two towers." When you have hundreds of documented successes, coincidence becomes impossible. But most importantly, it wasn't the events he predicted. It was the pattern he saw. Nostradamus understood that human history moves in cycles, that periodically humanity faces breaking points where everything old must die for something new to be born. And those moments always come with a figure, a catalyst, someone who consciously or unconsciously accelerates the collapse of the previous system. Napoleon was one, Hitler was another. According to the quatrains we'll analyze, Trump is the next, not as enemy or villain, but as the instrument the universe uses to force collective awakening. Because here's the spiritual truth Nostradamus understood. There's no evolution without crisis, no awakening without chaos, no transformation without the old dying first. What we're living through in 2026 is exactly that. The global system we've known, built on competition, ego, centralized power, materialism, is in its final moments. Trump isn't the cause. He's the visible symptom of a system already dying. The prophecies call him the last tyrant of the ancient era, not because he's the worst, but because he's the last before the great change. Now let's go directly to what you came to discover. The exact quatrains predicting what's happening in 2026. Century 3, Quatrain 81. The false trumpet will conceive a great scandal. The great republic will be devastated by his hand. Pride and deception will be his downfall when the heavens dictate his fall in the second year. Read that again. False trumpet. Trump literally means trumpet, and Nostradamus wrote this in the 16th century. The Great Republic. The United States is the quintessential republic in the modern world, devastated by his hand. Look at Trump's policies since January 2025. Withdrawal from international agreements, tensions with historic allies, and decisions fracturing the global system. But what will impact you is the last line, the second year. Trump returned to power January 2025. The second year is 2026. We're living exactly the time Nostradamus indicated, but there's more. Century 6, Quatrain 57. The Great One born of the eagle will return in glory. He will bring promises of gold for his own, but his pride will provoke the great division, and ancient allies will become mortal enemies. The Great One born of the eagle is America's symbol. Trump returned promising to make America great again. Promises of gold for his own. Right now, in February 2026, we're seeing exactly that. NATO is more fractured than ever. Relations with Europe are at their lowest point. Ancient allies are reconsidering American alliance. Here's where everything becomes mystical. Century 2, Quatrain 89. One day the two great masters will be friends. Their great power will be seen increased. The new land will be at its height. To the bloody one, the number will be told. The two great masters. During Trump's first term, his relationship with Putin was constant news. Now in 2026, with Ukraine's situation evolving, we're seeing exactly that rapprochement Nostradamus described. To the bloody one, the number will be told, speaks of a counted ending, limited time. And here's what connects all this spiritually. Nostradamus was seeing energetic patterns, planetary karmic cycles. When he wrote about Trump specifically, he wasn't making moral judgments. He was describing Trump's archetypal function. Trump represents the tyrant king archetype in its final manifestation. Ego without limits, power without wisdom, ambition without consciousness. Every spiritual tradition teaches about this archetype appearing just before great change. In Hindu mythology, it's Kali Yuga, the dark age preceding spiritual rebirth. In Mayan tradition, it's the end of the fifth sun before the sixth awakening. In esoteric Christianity, it's the Antichrist preceding the second coming, not literal, but symbolic of collective Christ consciousness returning. Trump isn't evil, he's necessary. His function is to show so obviously, so exaggeratedly, so impossibly to ignore everything that no longer works in our system. Because only when something becomes unbearably obvious does humanity awaken. That's exactly what the prophecies described. Nostradamus saw we would need such a clear, direct, undeniable mirror of our collective shadow that we couldn't keep sleeping. Trump is that mirror. But here's what's most important. The quatrains don't end with Trump's fall. They continue describing what comes after, and that's what really matters, because what follows is the birth of something completely new. Every 500 years approximately, humanity experiences what the ancients called the Great Return, a moment where all old systems collapse simultaneously to give way to a new era of consciousness. The last time was around 1500, the Renaissance, the Reformation, discovery of the New World. The entire medieval system crumbled in few decades. Now we're in the next cycle. 2020 to 2030 marks that transition decade, and planetary alignments confirm it. Pluto, the planet of death and rebirth, entered Aquarius in 2024. It won't return there until 2027. Aquarius represents the era of collective consciousness, where I dissolves into we, where vertical power hierarchies collapse and horizontal organization emerges. And what must die for that to be born? Exactly what Trump represents. Extreme individualism, unlimited ego, centralized power in one figure. Saturn is in Pisces until 2026. Pisces is the end of the zodiacal cycle, representing closure of a complete era, dissolution of old structures. Saturn is the planet of karma, consequences, cosmic justice. Nostradamus knew astrology deeply. When he wrote about the second year of return, when the heavens dictate his fall, he was seeing these exact transits. He was seeing 2026, this year. But here's what changes everything. This isn't punishment, it's liberation. Humanity has been trapped in a separation system for millennia, a system where we believe we're separate from each other, from nature, from the divine. That system needs leaders like Trump to sustain itself, strong figures maintaining the illusion of individual power. But the new era doesn't work that way. The Aquarian age functions with networks, collectives, distributed intelligence. It doesn't need messiahs, saviors, or benevolent tyrants. It needs each individual to awaken their own divinity. That's why Trump must fall, not as a person, but as a symbol. Because while we keep seeking leaders to save us, we won't assume our spiritual responsibility. Now let's get concrete. What specific events do the quatrains predict for this year? Century 8, Quatrain 76. When thunder roars within the eagle, it will be a sign that the Great One has fallen. Markets will tremble like never before, and gold will lose its brilliance for a time. When thunder roars, we're in February. Political tensions in America are at maximum. Investigations, scandals, internal divisions intensifying daily. The Great One has fallen. Prophecies speak of a fall not necessarily physical, but of power, influence, ability to control narrative. Markets will tremble. Here comes something to watch. Nostradamus associates the leader's fall with economic collapse. February, March, April 2026. These months are critical. All serious economic indicators are showing warning signs: American national debt at historic levels, tariff policies generating global trade tensions. But there's an even more specific quatrain. Century 3, Quatrain 60. Throughout Asia, great prescription, even in Persia, Egypt, and Turkey. When the sun of the eagle is totally eclipsed, pride will fall with broken promises. Eclipse of the eagle's sun, this is symbolic but also literal. There's a solar eclipse visible from North America in August 2026. Nostradamus used eclipses as temporal markers, and this quatrain associates that eclipse with broken promises and fallen pride. What does this mean practically? Between February and August 2026, we'll see progressive collapse. Not one unique event, but a cascade. First, economic crisis. The signs are already here. Second, fracture of international alliances, already happening with NATO, trade relationships. Third, scandals coming to light, hidden information being revealed. Fourth, most important, massive awakening of population finally saying, enough. Here's what Nostradamus really understood. Tyrants don't fall through external force. They fall when collective consciousness withdraws support, when enough people awaken and say, this doesn't represent us. That's happening now. Polls not appearing in mainstream media show growing disillusionment, not just with Trump, but with the entire system. People are tired of choosing between two evils, tired of believing someone else will fix everything, tired of giving their power to external figures. That tiredness is exactly the fuel for change. Century 1, Quatrain 53. When the combative beast is seen in the sky, earth will tremble under the Great One's feet. But from the trembling will be born the new seed, and those who awakened will guide the sleeping. The combative beast in sky. Mars is unusually active in 2026, alignments that won't repeat for 80 years. Earth will tremble. Crisis, chaos, uncertainty. Everything solid becomes liquid. But listen to the last line. Those who awakened will guide the sleeping. This is the key. The purpose of this entire crisis isn't destruction, it's awakening. Every crisis Trump generates, every scandal, every controversial decision is forcing millions to question, investigate, think for themselves. That's exactly what we needed, because a sleeping humanity accepts any authority. But an awakened humanity creates new systems based on consciousness, not power. The prophecies say this massive awakening begins this year, with events we can no longer ignore, truths that can no longer be hidden, an internal call so strong that millions will respond simultaneously. And when that happens, Trump will be history, not because they'll overthrow him, but because his function will be complete. Century X, Quatrain 75. After the eagle's great tribulation, a time of invisible leaders will be born. Power will be distributed among the many, and ancient wisdom will return with new force. Invisible leaders. Nostradamus saw an era where leadership wouldn't come from centralized figures, but from networks, collectives, what we today call distributed intelligence. He's describing exactly where humanity is moving. Blockchain, decentralization, autonomous organizations, systems not dependent on central authority. Ancient wisdom will return. We're seeing exactly that now. Millions returning to spiritual practices, meditation, nature connection, understanding of cosmic cycles, knowledge our ancestors had, but modernity made us forget. This return isn't nostalgic, it's evolutionary, taking ancient wisdom and applying it with new tools. Here's the most beautiful part. The prophecies say this change won't come imposed from above. It will come from within, from millions of people simultaneously awakening to their spiritual responsibility, stopping waiting for saviors, assuming their creative power, understanding that every thought, action, choice is creating the world. When enough people live from that consciousness level, old systems simply dissolve. They don't need to be overthrown, they become irrelevant. Because how do you govern a population that no longer needs to be governed? How do you control people who've recovered their internal sovereignty? You can't. That's the real end Nostradamus predicted. Not the end of the world, but the end of a world. The world of fear, separation, external control, and birth of a new world based on love, unity, conscious responsibility. Now you need to know what specific signs to watch in coming months, because prophecies don't just predict, they prepare. First sign, economic collapse between March and June 2026. Century 5, Quatrain 32. Gold and silver will inflate so much that after the theft by fire they will be cast out. All will be exhausted and consumed by debt. Watch for extreme market volatility, March to June. Second sign, massive revelations of hidden information. We're already seeing massive leaks, classified documents coming to light, corruption information that can no longer be hidden. Watch April to July for information explosions changing entire narratives. Third sign, definitive fracture of global alliances. Prophecies specifically mention separation of ancient brothers. Watch May to June when definitive decisions marking decades will be made. But here's what's important to understand. These signs aren't bad news. They're labor pains. When a woman gives birth, there's pain, chaos, moments where everything seems out of control. But that doesn't mean something bad is happening. It means something new is being born. Your job isn't to avoid the process, it's to understand it, because Nostradamus left another crucial quatrain for those who are awake. Century 1, Quatrain 48. 20 years of the moon's reign having passed, 7,000 years another will hold monarchy. When the sun takes its weary days, then will be accomplished and finished my prophecy. 20 years of moon's reign. The moon represents unconscious, hidden, collective sleep. From approximately 2000 to 2020, humanity was in deep sleep, consumerism, distraction, disconnection. When the sun takes its days, the sun represents consciousness, light, awakening. We're entering that phase now. So, what do you do with this information? First, don't panic about coming crises. They're part of the process. Second, use this time to strengthen your interior. Meditate, connect with your essence, develop intuition. Third, prepare practically. Have emergency funds, diversify resources, create local support networks. Fourth, maintain vision of the new world. Don't get lost in chaos of what's dying. Focus energy on what's being born. Fifth, share this knowledge. Because many will awaken scared and need guides. People who understand chaos is temporary, but transformation is permanent. Nostradamus didn't write prophecies to create fear. He wrote them to create preparation. So, when this moment arrived, and we're in it, there would be enough conscious people to hold the light while everything else transforms. You're not here by accident. If you're watching this video to the end, it's because you're one of those people. It's not coincidence this information reaches you now. It's synchronicity. It's the universe confirming your intuition was correct, that something big is happening, and you have a role in it. The prophecies aren't written in stone. They're written in probabilities. Nostradamus saw the most likely future lines based on his time's collective consciousness. But he also saw that future is created moment by moment with each choice we make. That's why he left the prophecies, not to tell us this will happen and there's nothing you can do, but to tell us this is the path you're on. Now choose consciously. Trump's fall is predicted. 2026's probable events are indicated. But what comes after depends on how many people awaken, how many assume spiritual responsibility, how many stop giving power to external leaders and begin living from their own divinity. You're not here to save yourself. You're here to hold the frequency. When everything around you is chaos, your job is maintaining calm, When others panic, your job is radiating peace. When fear narrative dominates media, your job is remembering truth. This is temporary. Chaos is part of labor. Something beautiful is being born. Every time you do that, every time you consciously choose peace over fear, you're changing future probabilities. You're voting with your energy for the world you want to see. The Nostradamus prophecies about Trump aren't about Trump. They're about us. About our willingness to release the old, our courage to embrace the new, our capacity to remember who we really are. Divine beings, having human experience, conscious creators of our reality, universe fragments that awakened to know themselves. This moment, February 2026, is a critical inflection point in that awakening. What happens in coming months will mark decades, not as victim of events, but as conscious witness of them. So stay alert, stay centered, stay connected to your truth. The prophecies are in motion, the future is being written, and you have the pen in your hand.